Welcome to the Real Estate Show with your real estate and mortgaging team, Terry Kilakos and Merav Marciano on CJAD 800.
Good afternoon, everyone. You're listening to The Real Estate Show. I'm your host, Terry Kilakos, chartered real estate and mortgage broker, as well as president and founder of Northeast Real Estate and Mortgage Agency. And today we're talking about the importance of proper storage in your home. With many of us buying more than we need to and living spaces becoming smaller and smaller, proper storage space in your home is key. Today we're going to be taking a look at that and how to improve your storage. And we're also going to be talking about some tips and tricks to keep your home and life organized, which, this really falls in line with real estate because the amount of people, Merav, that actually reach out to me and they say we need to change homes because
we ran out of space. It's incredible. And sometimes just a little reorganizing of stuff goes a long way. So it could actually save you money, and it can help raise your net worth by just reorganizing some things a little bit. Joining me, the voice that you guys just heard, is my beautiful co-host, Merav Marciano, chartered real estate and mortgage broker and vice president extraordinaire of Northeast. Welcome. Thank you.
You can always reach out to us during the week at the office at 514-680-4674, or you can visit us online at northeastmortgages.ca, or you could visit our new website, which is nordest.ca. So nordest.ca. And if you haven't done so already, please take a moment to subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is newsonthego.ca. And Merav, interestingly enough, we had set a goal to reach over 1,000 subscribers. I think we're hovering at about 1,300 right now, which is really cool. We really kind of shot those numbers up. And what I really love about it is where the listeners are actually coming from. So this week I actually had a client who reached out to us, and he's buying property in Toronto, and he listens.
He's a fan.
He's a fan. He listens to our YouTube. He watches our YouTube shows, I should say, and he loves it. He loves the kind of interaction that we have together, and he finds it funny that you always make these weird faces at me, telling me to stop talking.
I'm always afraid of what's going to come out of your mouth. I always say you have a very thin filter. Yeah. So sometimes I always worry about what you're about to say.
Merav is always she knows my inner voice. We've been together for almost 19 years. We've known each other for 19 years now. Yeah. We've been together for the better part of 18, and she knows my inner voice, the inner monologue that goes on in my head, and sometimes that filter comes off and it'll actually, what I'm thinking will actually come out of my mouth, which sometimes is appropriate and sometimes, actually most of the time, it's not. So
I try and protect you from yourself as much as possible.
But it's funny because it's one of the things that I tell my clients when I sit down with them. One of the first conversations I have is, look, this is who I am. I have been doing this, for way too long to take myself seriously. I really don't, okay? And I think that it probably comes off on the radio show where I don't really take myself very seriously. I know I do a great job for my clients. I do a great job, for the people that need our services. But the reality is that when you take yourself too seriously, it's no fun, So
you try and have fun with it.
Exactly. So I tell them, if you can't handle that, I'll set you up with one of the more serious brokers. Otherwise, you have to deal with me and my silly jokes. So there we are.
Well, even the radio show, you've been doing this since 2008. Yeah. I just came along in the front.
In the front lines.
From the front lines recently, but I've been in the
behind the scenes.
Since 2008. So I think you got a little bit comfortable with not only sharing good information, but also, having fun with it.
Being fun, exactly. Before we kick off our show, we'll just a little bit of a market update. Okay, mm-hmm. So a couple of things going on this week. Bill Morneau actually has stepped down as both minister and
Minister of Finance and MP, kind of due in part to some of the policies that were put in place during COVID, as well as because of the We Charity scandal. And he's being replaced with...
the first female finance minister, Chrystia Freeland. She's been around in Parliament since 2013. She doesn't have the same kind of experience as Bill Morneau, but she definitely has experience. She's a foreign minister, and she was one of the people who renegotiated the NAFTA agreement. So she definitely has some political background to her, and I'm curious to see where this is going to go. A new face. She came during a very difficult time, so she's got a difficult job ahead of her.
I
agree. I mean, at the end of the day, this happens,
Absolutely. And, for those of you that have listened long enough to the show, you know my position probably on what I think about our government. But the one thing that I do have to say about our government and any government in general, whether we're talking about Canadian, U.S., Europe, anywhere in the world, governments have a very, very, very hard job. They cannot make everyone happy no matter how much they try. For those of you that follow our mayor on Instagram, I caused a little bit of a kerfuffle on her Instagram page. I was very vocal about how the fact that, I didn't appreciate some of the stuff that she does, but other people do. Some people like bike paths. Some people don't. Okay, you can't make everyone happy, and it's the same thing with our government. Whether it's the Trudeau government or anything else, you can't make everyone happy.
Yep. And we saw this during COVID. Too strict.
Exactly.
People were complaining. Not strict enough. People were complaining. Everything.
Yeah. People are complaining about opening schools. People are complaining about having schools closed.
So you can't make everyone happy.
You really can't. So you just got to do what you got to do. And I wish her a lot of luck. And she's got a hell of a job ahead of her. And
we're looking forward to seeing what Miss Freeland is going to do for Canada.
Absolutely. On the real estate front, a little bit of a mortgage update. Chaos is continuing. I mean, this is the only words.
How low can you go?
Well, on the mortgage front, I mean, how low can you go right now? 5-year fix, they're hovering anywhere between 179 all the way up to about 209 for insured mortgages. This is absolutely, absolutely unprecedented. Obviously, never been heard of anywhere. So I'm kind of interested to see where this is going to go, if it's going to go lower.
We haven't even seen this during the financial crisis.
No.
2008, 2009, we had gone down to 199, 189.
Never 2.25. That was the lowest.
Well, BMO was doing...
No, it never went that low.
No?
No, absolutely not.
I thought I remembered 199.
Never.
Wow.
The lowest 5-year fixed rate that I was able to ever secure prior to this year was about 2.25. Maybe 2.2, but that was it. The problem is that the government didn't have a chance between kind of recessions to actually start increasing rates. And this is the result. This is kind of the result of it. On the real estate side, the offers are coming in fast and furious.
Not enough inventory out there.
Really not. We actually had, it's funny, right before the show we were talking about this. We had an offer this week. One of our brokers went in $100,000 over asking price. And they lost the bid.
Yep.
At $100,000 over asking. That is absolutely crazy.
Yep.
When you think about it. And
there was 12 offers on that property.
Yeah. So this is what we're seeing. So, we're going to continue saying, if you don't have a real estate broker, you need to get yourself a real estate broker. You're listening to The Real Estate Show. Coming up, we're going to be looking at some storage ideas that can make your life a little bit easier. Now we're off to the CJAD Traffic Center.
You're listening to The Real Estate Show with your real estate and mortgaging team, Terry Kilakos and Merav Marciano on CJAD 800.
You're listening to The Real Estate Show, and today we're talking about the importance of having the right storage in your home. And no one knows this better than we do, Merav.
Oh, my goodness.
Living in my land with these tiny little closets.
Oh my goodness!
That could
moving from there to the suburbs was like, wow, storage space.
I think that if you take all of the closet space that we had in that entire, we had this, very large flat in my land on St. Joseph. It was 1,800 square feet. Beautiful home. But the closet space was a disaster.
That just tells you, the place was built in 1892. That just tells you that people had a few items of clothing, a few shoes. This is insane what we're doing nowadays.
Yeah, and so what's the number one business right now in North America?
What is it?
Storage, right? So interestingly enough, the number one business right now that is going on is actually storage rentals, like those kind of storage. Those depots where you go and you pay monthly and you get a storage locker because people accumulate stuff. A ton of stuff. So, proper storage in a home is really important. And it's not something that needs to be taken lightly, because a lot of times people, what they're going to do is they accumulate things, and now all of a sudden it starts to overwhelm the house. Mm-hmm. And by it starting to overwhelm the house, now all of a sudden they get the idea the house is too small. When it's not the house that's necessarily the problem. The problem is how their stuff is either organized in the home or how it's kind of, accumulating in every room. You have kids' toys everywhere. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I was looking at the average price per square foot in Montreal, just out of curiosity, and I was like, so we're paying anywhere between $400 to $600 a square foot, let's say on average between the condos, single-family home. And I'm thinking, if I'm taking up like 10, 12 square feet of space, floor space.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. This is space that I can use for living space.
That's right. Versus
storage space. So why not be more efficient in my storage so that I can actually use my floor space properly?
That's right. Absolutely. And so how do we do that?
Well, interestingly enough, we had brought in an organizational expert a few years back, and she was saying, you've got ceilings that go up to, back then it was
11 feet.
11 feet at our old place, but even here we've got like 9 feet, 10 feet. And it's like, why aren't you putting shelves that go all the way to the top? You're buying these shelving units, but you're stopping at 8 feet or 6 feet or whatever it is. And I said, that makes a lot of sense. There's things that we don't need to have access to just basically once a year or a couple times a year. That could be up high and I can reach for it when need be. So that I found was like, as simple as it is, it's such an eye-opener to put shelves up high in a place where you wouldn't have put shelves.
So basically what's happening is you're reducing the footprint by going up. Yeah. Right, so it's like the equivalent of building a skyscraper as opposed to building a whole neighborhood. And actually, it's something that we noticed ourselves. When COVID started, that's when I kind of finished my office at home because we needed to work at home. And my office had I love books. For those of you that follow me on Instagram, you know that I'm always talking about new books and stuff like that I'm reading. But we have a ton of books at the house. And the way that they were structured before is we had a whole bunch of bookcases, kind of, and they were lower bookcases, or the books would be in boxes, or they would just kind of be around. So what did I do? We went and I ordered bookcases from IKEA that went floor to ceiling. And by actually having the bookcases going from floor to ceiling, now I was able to reduce the amount of the bookcase's footprint.
Yes.
And oddly enough, something that was taking up tremendous amounts of space, now all of a sudden I have empty shelves on my bookcases because they're going floor to ceiling. And if you look at these older homes, especially ones that have, now we're talking about larger homes with studies and so on and so forth, that is exactly what you're actually going to see. You're going to see storage, bookcases, anything like that that's actually going floor to ceiling. Think about our kitchen that we had in the plateau, in my land. Our kitchen didn't have a lot of cabinets, but the cabinets
went all the way to the ceiling.
Right?
That's true.
And even the closets, although they were microscopic.
Super microscopic.
I don't understand. Hold on.
All our clothes fit sideways.
Yeah, I have to just put a little parentheses here. And anyone that lives in my land or plateau is gonna appreciate what I'm about to say. But these closets weren't even like a foot deep, right? Which means that a hanger didn't really fit properly inside, this closet. So because it didn't fit inside this closet, what you would end up getting is once you put the hanger up, one end of the clothing would actually be rubbing up against the wall and the other end would be rubbing up against the door. And all my suits at the time would have on either shoulders white marks from
the paint.
From the paint from the closet, which was
I remember that.
Kind of weird. If you go back and you look at my old pictures, I'm sure you'll see a little white spot on it. That's what it's from. But how do we get around that? Wardrobes. Mm-hmm. Right? And this is
armoires.
Big armoires.
But that's what they used to have back then.
100%.
I don't think that those were made for clothes.
Which?
I think those little closets. I think really they had big armoires. That was their way.
But people also didn't have massive wardrobes,
yes.
Back in the days.
Yeah, they had 10 items of clothing and, you don't need the amount of clothes and shoes that people have nowadays, including ourselves.
Oh, I need my shoes, but anyways.
I need my shoes too.
I have both me and my wife have a shoe fetish, just FYI. So badly organized storage can obviously affect your lifestyle.
Yes.
And let's look at something that we saw when we actually came into our new home, which was the garage, mm-hmm. right? Garage is one of these things where it's kind of like people don't really think about it. And if I actually drive through my neighborhood, what I actually see is I see a whole bunch of people parking their cars in the driveway while their garage is filled to the brim with junk.
Yep, stuff that you never use or rarely use.
Exactly.
It's a very common thing. And they're going to let their car accumulate with snow and ice and all that. And their junk is nice and warm inside their garage.
I don't get that.
To me, buying a house with a garage was crucial for my car.
Yeah, I wanna continue this because this is the whole garage thing is very important to me as a man, and we need to continue this conversation. Up next, we're going to be discussing more storage ideas and how to make your home more efficient. You're listening to CJAD's The Real Estate Show.
You're listening to The Real Estate Show with your real estate and mortgaging team, Terry Kilakos and Merav Marciano on CJAD 800.
Thank you for joining us on The Real Estate Show. Today, we're talking about the importance of proper storage in your home. Feel free to visit us online at nordest.ca, or you can reach us at the office at 514-680-4674. And if you haven't done so already, shameful. I mean, it's just terrible.
Terrible.
You have to subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is newsonthego.ca. So before the break, we started talking a little bit about Garages, right? So when we first came into our home, the one that we bought in Dollard, after we moved from, the little closets, we moved to the big closets.
Yes, and we had no parking.
And we had no parking.
At the plateau,
That's right.
my land.
We get there, we buy this house. It's got a 2-car garage. And, I'm talking with the owners of the house, and I said, I have a question for you. I said, why do you have only one garage door opener? Only one door has a garage door opener, the other one doesn't. And he's like, well, that's not really a garage spot. And
I remember that.
I'm like, but it's a garage. What do you mean it's not a garage spot? He's like, no, that's for storage. And I was like, so you have one spot that's for storage and one spot that... He's like, yeah, it doesn't fit a car there. The guy had like an Echo or something. Like he had like a tiny car. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, doesn't fit. I'm like, I'm planning on putting my truck in that spot. And he's like, your truck will never fit. So out comes the tape measure. Mm-hmm. Right? And I whip out the tape measure and I measure the truck bumper to bumper. And I go in and measure the spot.
And it
fit
yep.
with room to spare, I might add. And this is a truck, not an Echo or whatever he had, little car. So people, when they fill their space with junk, they lose track of what actually is there. And this is one of the reasons, this is unfortunately a reason why people move, right? Why they say, oh, my house is too small. Your house is not small. You have too much junk.
But this is the society we live in now. Yeah. All of us, including myself, we have too much.
Yeah.
And this is the importance of spring cleaning, fall cleaning. You have to constantly get rid of things. I go through my closet and I'm like, oh my goodness, I bought this. I never wore it.
Exactly.
You know, it's so important to go and do that spring cleaning and get rid of those things. You know, that really cool deal that you bought at the thrift shop and you never used it. It's time to get rid of it. You know, it was a cool thing to buy and to show to your friends that you got a steal for it. But I mean,
by the way, people, she just so you guys know, she's referring to stuff that I buy in thrift shops. For those of you who,
he's an addict.
I really am. Right across the street from our office, there's a Renaissance, and it's like literally my favorite place to go during my lunch break. I'll go in, and I usually find all kinds of bizarre things that I buy, you know, and I'll pay like 2 or 3. I'm a hoarder of thrift shop stuff. I'll admit it.
But going back to the garage,
but it's good stuff.
Yeah, no, so you say. Going back to the garage, though.
Yeah.
I understand the dilemma. You don't have space, so you say, I'm going to put it in my garage. But even that, there's a way to organize it. You can hang up your bicycles on hooks.
Yes.
You can put shelves, ceiling to floor, again, floor to ceiling, in your garage to put away all your stuff. You can buy, you know, those garage storage units.
Yeah. And actually, let's talk about something clever that they sell, and you can actually buy it online. You can buy it from Amazon. You can buy it from Canadian Tire. I think there's actually a bunch of places that they sell them. It's basically a big basket, and the basket is, you know, depending on the size that you can get, you know, 4x8. You can get all kinds of different sizes, and you build this whole pulley system on your ceiling, and it goes on top of your car in the garage. So imagine, you know, this
like a big platform floating
exactly. So
on top of your car, like high up on the garage.
That's it, exactly. So you can put bins in it, right? So you can get big Rubbermaid bins. You could fill the Rubbermaid bins with your stuff. And then you have this pulley system that you're able to raise this platform up, and you still have space for your car, right? So the space that your junk would have taken up in your garage now all of a sudden has been properly stored in bins in different places, and it's out of the way, and now you have a place to actually park your vehicle. And you can do the same thing with the bicycles. You mentioned hanging them up on the walls. 100%.
I've even seen hanging bicycles in people's condos.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be in a garage.
Yep.
And I said, wow, that's clever. It's out of the way. It's hanging up high. It's cool because people can, you're showcasing your bicycle. Some of these bicycles are beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't see anything wrong with that. You know, you have to get creative and use the space that you have properly. When
I actually just to rewind time, and now I'm going to rewind time back to the time that I lived with my mom and dad, right? So I had 2 modes of transportation back then. I had a bike and I had a skateboard. Okay, I loved skateboarding, but skateboard wasn't always, you know, I couldn't always use it for certain things, so I would use my bike. And I had a fairly higher end bike. So what did I do? In the back hallway of where my room was in the house, I hung it off of the ceiling, and basically it was hooked onto a hook, and then the back was kind of raised, and you know, luckily the ceilings were high enough where it was out of the way, and it was perfect. I would probably kill one of our children if they actually did that right now. I don't know how my parents tolerated that, but if you own the house and you're comfortable with doing that.
But you know, you were mentioning mini storage spaces. When we moved, we realized just how much junk we have.
Yes, that's right.
Same thing with my parents when they moved from a house to a condo, and your parents when they moved. you realize just how much stuff you have that
you accumulate over the years.
And you never needed it.
Absolutely.
We literally put things in the garbage. So I think a lot of times we use a mini storage or we keep things that we really could sell or get rid of from the get-go.
Right. So let's talk about that for a second, because one of the big problems that I see on the mortgage side, on the real estate side, is people who downsize. Okay, so the amount of times that I've seen, empty nesters, they decide, we're going to sell our house and we're going to downsize. We don't need such a big house anymore. But they decide to keep all their stuff because
you're attached,
or the kids might want it down the line. Okay. Mm-hmm. First and foremost, most of the time the kids don't want your stuff. Okay, let me just put it out there. Most of the time, unless it's some sort of family heirloom or something like that, which shouldn't be going in storage. Okay, but for the most part, the stuff does not belong in a storage locker, because a storage locker on average, although you might pay whatever it is, $99, promotional for the first month, or, for the first 3 months you pay $99 storage, doesn't cost only $99. It costs $500, $600, $700 to actually store your stuff in one of those storage lockers. And quickly, think about it. You're paying $500 a month on the low end. Put that over a year.
Yeah.
How much is that? And calculate how much is the stuff actually worth that you just put in that storage locker. And we saw that with clients where they're going to come in, they're going to downsize, and they're going to take all their stuff and they're going to put it in a storage locker. And then they come to see me 3-4 years later, and they still have that stuff in there. And it's just accumulating dust, literally.
Worse. A lot of these lockers have mold, have mice. So
Absolutely. Anyways, we'll continue the discussion about the storage lockers in a second. Stay tuned for more talk about storage, spring cleaning, and so much more. Now we're off to the CJAD Traffic Center.
You're listening to The Real Estate Show with your real estate and mortgaging team, Terry Kilakos and Merav Marciano on CJAD 800.
Thanks for joining us today. We've been talking about storage in your home and how important it is to keep your home clean and organized. Don't forget, you could call us at the office at 514-680-4674. You can visit us online at nordest.ca. And Merav is dying to laugh here because during the break I said cleanly.
Keep your home cleanly.
Listen, Shakespeare used to invent words. I could invent words too. And I think that that's a legitimate word.
Yes.
But anyways, I'm going to look at Webster's after this.
Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about keeping your home clean.
No, well, I did want to mention there's little things that are important to the eye, like wires.
Right.
Hanging them in back of your furniture, putting little hooks. They sell these clever little hooks. You put them in back of your furniture. You hang
keeps
your
things
wire.
Organized. Absolutely.
You've got all kinds of little things that you can hang with Velcros. We put remotes up with Velcros in certain places in our home. Just like maybe buying a headboard that includes storage space. So you can
Interesting.
you can create storage space from anything. So why just buy a regular wooden headboard? Buy the ones that have the shelves. Our kids had those when they were little, remember?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you have little books in there. You have all kinds of things. Bed frames that have drawers. Our kids have drawers under their beds.
100%. And these captain beds, they're called captain beds because they're actually the history of them actually comes from the ships, and captains would actually have them, and they would keep their maps underneath the beds because there's limited amount of space within an actual ship. Okay, so there's a little bit of fun fact for you guys. But these captain beds that kids have are priceless as far as I'm concerned, because kids just have so much stuff, right? Teddy bears and toys and this and that and all kinds of stuff. Put it under the bed, and at least it's not accumulating any dust. But if you don't have a captain's bed and you need to organize your child's room, they sell these big, massive Tupperware containers with the wheels on them.
Yeah, with the drawers, and
yes.
Those were very practical. We use those a lot for our kids.
Well, we use them for ourselves as well, right? So when we had these little tiny closets, and my wife had a lot of shoes. What we would be doing is we would be putting the shoes in these massive, these things were pretty big, but we would put them under the bed. They would have little wheels, and they would actually flap open.
Oh, yes.
You remember those big white ones?
Yep.
And you put it on under, and you pull it out, and you open up the flap, and you have your shoes inside.
Yes.
Which was very, very practical, and that was actually thanks to that organizational specialist that came to our house to tell us, you need to...
You don't have any space.
You don't have any space.
But the little Tupperware containers with the drawers, those were practical for the little car toys and things like that. So
100%. Cleanliness, they say, is next to godliness. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how cleanliness and clutter actually will impact your soul. Right, and how it impacts your well-being. So a lot of times we walk into homes, as realtors and as mortgage brokers, and what do we see? We see a disaster, that happens in the house. And you could say that kind of disaster that's in there, the hoarding or whatever it may be, it's most of the time it's a symptom of an underlying kind of condition, depression, anything like that. But a lot of times what happens, you end up creating this space, right? You fill it with stuff, with, hoarding or whatever you're going to be doing. And then all of a sudden, you get past the depression, but the mess still remains. And when the mess still remains, you just create this vicious cycle of depression and of, kind of not being, you know what I'm saying?
I find living in a space that is messy, and I've been there, we all go through difficult times. It actually creates a lot of overwhelm, anxiety, like you say, depression.
Yeah.
It's whether it's the anxiety and the overwhelm that created the mess or the mess that created the overwhelm, it doesn't matter. Basically, it's not good for your emotional health.
Well-being, yeah.
To live in a space like that.
So then all of a sudden you end up, and this is going back to what we were talking about earlier, you start to associate your house to something that's not very pleasant, right? Mm-hmm. So some people are reluctant to go home when the house is messy. And I know a couple of people who their house is so messy and it's so cluttered with stuff that they're not comfortable in their home anymore. So then what are they going to do? They're going to opt to sell that home. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times what they're going to do is they're going to sell it at a loss, because even the people that are buying it they don't realize the size of the home.
Yeah, or the potential. Yeah.
Right? Because people lack vision. So they're going to sell it at a loss. So now they're losing money on something that they didn't have to lose money on if they just organized it a little bit better. And again, going back to the home that we bought in Dollard, we bought it. It was a 2-car garage. Luckily, I had the kind of foresight to kind of sit there with the tape measure and measure whether my car fits. But had I not, I would have taken the word of the previous homeowner and said, yeah, sorry, you advertised a 2-car garage, but it's not a 2-car garage. It's a 1.5-car garage. So these are things and that price point on that house, although they didn't have a ton of stuff, but the price point on the house reflected the amount of things that were actually in that house. So you have to be very careful. And even when we're staging homes,
yes,
what are one of the things that we're going to tell people to do?
Declutter.
Yeah.
Declutter is the main one. And then we'll organize the furniture, add some plants, this, that. But declutter is the main one.
Yeah. We're in the middle of a transaction right now where we asked the homeowners to do exactly that. And, luckily, we have our realtors are incredible people. And our realtor went in and helped the homeowner as the photographer was going around the house to just kind of move things out of the way and organize things a little bit so that it presented well in photos. Yeah. And I've done that on the mortgage side.
Yeah.
Myself and Nemo, we went to a home where we literally cleaned it up.
Yeah.
Before the bank came in.
Because sometimes it's even a fire hazard.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So these are really important. But you don't have to have kind of issues and stuff like that to accumulate these messes either. You know, it happens. Last week, we actually had a cleaning company that came into our office to clean out the last 10 years of accumulated stuff. So for those of you that have been to our office, you know that, we have 2 floors, and the bottom floor, we have a furnace room. And in that furnace room, we have kind of like this storage space. And every time we were tearing down cubicles or changing furniture or anything like that, where was that stuff going? Boom, right inside that room. And unfortunately, it was accumulating, and we had to bring in a company to actually get rid of it because it was just too much. And now we have a ton of space, and I don't know what to do with all this space. Merav, we've run out of real estate. If people want to get a hold of us, they can reach us at
the office at 514-680-4674 or online at www.nordest.ca.
Guys, till next week, have a blessed week. Love you all.